As we start this unit or topic on emotions, I want to first focus in a little bit on just some real basic theories of emotions before we get too deeply into the cultural aspects of it. So I want to start here first. So with, in fact, just listen to me. I'm going to do the opposite of what I just said. But here we go. We're going to talk Liggett. Liggett is an emotion which is experienced by the people of the Ilongot tribe in the Philippines. It's a interesting emotion that is so tied to their cultural way of life that you can't necessarily separate it from all other aspects of the culture for them. So for us, the best kind of understanding of the emotional experience is anger, passion, energy, kind of stick them together. But what you find is that it's so much more because of the associations with it. And so what happens is people in the Ilongot tribe can experience this liget in situations where they're insulted, irritated, envious, all these kinds of things. It provides motivation. That is, um, when your liget builds high, it gives you energy. It gives you it's a purpose. If it were not for liget, we'd have no life. I mean, it's a lovely idea. So it's so much more than just an emotion. And they believe it was concentrated in semen. So as many cultural beliefs have it. So we find that this is something that men experience more than women. And the idea is that, Liggett would build high and then you have to release it. Except that they would spend, they would have like all night rituals and they would get, chew on drugs and bang themselves in the head and chant. And they build their Liggett so high, then the only way to release the Liggett was to go on headhunting. Chop somebody's head, Liggett released. And clearly, when the Christian missionaries moved in, they had to eliminate the headhunting. And since the liget as an emotional experience was so deeply tied to the headhunting, it meant the elimination of liget. And so then, a few years after this, some anthropologists came in and studied the Ilongot, and as one of the components, they played back an audio recording of one of these song fests, and the people, just the older people, just started to weep. They started to cry. We've lost our souls. We've lost who we are. What have we become? And so they just felt that when this emotional experience of Liggett was removed from their tribe, that they just lost a sense of purpose. Okay. So, going back to what I originally said I was going to do, which is general statements about emotions. Emotions are quite complex because they involve a physiological arousal component, they involve an appraisal, a cognitive appraisal component, and they involve an external display component. And these, obviously feed into each other, as you can see with the arrows, that they all impact each other. The arousal impacts the appraisal, the arousal impacts the expression. I mean, it's just they all connect together and impact. Now, obviously, at their core, all emotional experiences involve the autonomic nervous system. And perhaps you remember from maybe your general psych class, the autonomic nervous system has two branches to it, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. And the sympathetic nervous system is that part of the autonomic nervous system which activates us, builds us up. It gets us ready to do things. That is to say, emotions create the components necessary to motivate, to move, to do. Okay? The parasympathetic nervous system, on the other hand, is the one that is really involved in kind of calming us down, controlling, saving our resources, and bringing us back down to normal states. So briefly, there's been a variety of emotional theories. The one of the earliest was the James Lang theory, and the James Lang theory actually comes out of William James's experiences. He had some crippling depression, just absolute crippling depression, and he tried everything in his power to get rid of this depression until finally he just said, "Okay, this is it." Every morning I'm going to get up and I'm going to start to smile. And at first it's acting. I'm faking it. I'm faking it. But as the day goes on, the smile becomes more and more real. I mean, this was William James's experience, and so his argument is, here's how it works: that you see a scary thing. In this case, it's a lion. It's a scary ass lion, and so your heart rate goes up, your blood pressure goes up, your perspiration goes up, and so you have this bodily reaction, and then we get afraid. And so it's like when you take James Lane's theory to its logical conclusion, we're sad because we cry. Okay, it is the act of crying that makes us sad. And it's like, it's a little counterintuitive, but yet William James had his beliefs. A more recent version comes out of Schachter. This is Schachter's two-factor theory. And Schachter's two-factor theory argues that what's going to happen is there's going to be a stimulus object, in this case, a scary dog. And what's going to happen is that there's going to be some physiological arousal as a result of the scary dog. But then what's going to happen is, in order for us to have the emotional experience, there has to be a cognitive label. Okay? So, as an example on this slide, here's this person on the left side feeling aroused, but you're not sure what's going on, feeling warm, anxious, shaky. You look around yourself and you see a bear and you say, "Oh, I must be afraid." But if you have the exact same physiological experience and you look around and there's an attractive woman, and you're like, "Oh, baby, I know what that is. Or you look around and there's your exam, you're like, it's anxiety. Or you look around and you're in the gym and you go, "What's not an emotion?" So in order to have the emotional experience, you have to have both the physiological arousal and the cognitive label for it. However, some researchers, like Robert Zions in particular, argues that sometimes emotions can occur so quickly that you do not need to have a cognition. Maybe complex emotions require some kind of a cognition, but many more simple or baseline measures or baseline emotions, that is ones that are experienced more specifically, that are more amygdala based. So you find that in the next unit, we're going to start, next video, we're going to start talking about the universal basis of emotions. It's like in some kind of a ways, things, these core level emotions such as fear are going to be shared not just by all human beings on the planet, but all animals on the planet. And in these very, very base level emotional experiences do not in fact require cognition, because the brain literally has a shortcut for the emotional experience, and the emotional experience is reflexive. Reflexive in the same way that, if you go to the doctor and they bang your knee with a hammer and your foot goes up, you can't stop it. It's a reflex. And so some emotions are so reflexive and burned into the brain that there is no cognition required.